Is it just me, or does everybody want your money when you start a business? There are so many different software companies and businesses and apps out there claiming that they are the best and that you need them and that they're essential. And all of a sudden you're super overwhelmed, and that social media management side hustle that you started to create more money for yourself is actually costing you a whole lot. Well, have no fear. Your friendly social media management coach is here. In today's video, I'm stripping it back to the basics. I want to talk about what you actually need as a new social media manager. If I was to start from scratch, start from zero all again today, what is the software that I would definitely go out and purchase and sign up for? And what is the software that I would skip? So all of the apps I'm going to be recommending today are $20 and under. And we have to start with Canva because this is every social media manager's best friend. And if I had limited resources, this is one of the first things that I would invest in as a new social media manager. You do not need expensive, fancy design software. Let me just set the record straight, because I also have an Adobe Cloud subscription. So that includes my Adobe Lightroom, Premiere Pro, Audition, all of the quote fancy software. And the reason I have this is because it's the software I learned to use in university when I did television papers and I learned about animation and audio recording and all of that stuff. I would never recommend Adobe Premiere Pro to new social media managers. It is a beast to learn. And if you want to go down that route, fantastic to develop those skills and look into more professional software like Premiere Pro. But I think as a newbie, there's way too much pressure on spending too much money on software. And that's why I'm making this video. Canva is just really great for presentations, video editing, as well as graphic posts and carousels. I think it's really worth the money for the paid subscription because of how much it can cover in your business. Another sub app I want to recommend here on the topic of content creation and what I kind of use in tandem with Canva is everybody's other favorite bestie, ChatGPT. I don't actually have the premium version of this. I just have an account. It's a free account and it does me so well. So throughout this video, you're probably going to notice a theme with every software that I recommend. It is all about speeding up workflows, because the faster you work, the more clients you can work with and the more money that you're making. We also want really efficient, smooth, streamlined systems to not only make our lives easier, but also our clients. And that is where the next piece of software comes in and the actual sponsors of today's video. Rella is not just a scheduling software. In fact, that feels like an insult to call it just that. It is a project management system, it is a content management system, and it is a super easy way for your clients to still stay involved in the content creation process and approve content. When you are working as a social media manager, you cannot just post content on a whim, which is often what we're used to doing when it comes to our personal accounts. But we are now a professional. We are now managing this for a client, for a business. So having a software that allows you to plan out all of the content, also communicate with the client and make sure they're approving everything before it goes live is going to save you a lot of headaches. Speaking from the experience of someone who tried to start by just using Google Drives, and it led to a lot of confusion with my clients. Rella has a whole bunch of different ways you can preview content and brainstorm ideas. I am personally a big fan of just like the calendar layout and being able to look at a glance at the week ahead or the month ahead and make sure all of my content is planned out accordingly and I'm not missing anything. I also love the Instagram feed preview function, so I can make sure everything I'm posting looks good on the grid. And when it does come time for those client approvals, it's as easy as clicking the share button. You can share directly to your client's email, or you can share it via a link and they can make any comments and they don't have to make an account, which again, it's all about choosing software that's really easy from the client experience. So we get people renewing contracts, they have a positive experience and they refer us. And this is why it's made it into the cut and has actually in parts inspired today's video talking about software and what's worth it as a social media manager. Because the other thing I love about Rella is the price. I've tested out a lot of content management software and systems and scheduling apps and all sorts of different things. And Rella's subscription starts at $20 a month, which is really, really competitive. And I honestly think really worth it for the professionalism that it's going to add to your services as a social media manager. And also speeding up, again, those workflows and making you create more time in your schedule, which allows to make more money. There's a lot of like fancy CRM platforms out there that you really don't need as a newbie. I used to use ClickUp, and to be honest, it was too complicated and overwhelming for me as the business owner, let alone my clients and my team members, and it was just a bit of overkill, especially as like a freelance new social media manager. You most likely won't have a team to begin with for a little while, and it's just like that software is overkill and it's very, very expensive, and Rella is a really great alternative for staying organized, looking professional, but it's not going to break the bank. And to make things even better, I actually have a discount code for you. So if you use the code Ellen, you're going to get 30% off your first 3 months of Rella, which brings the price down even further, which is unreal. So the next piece of software that's going to be essential in your social media management journey is something to manage contracts, because contracts are the foundations of your business, and you really want to make sure you're doing a good job in making contracts that cover all the terms and conditions that you need to protect yourself as a contractor. But we also, say it with me, want it to be a streamlined and easy process for our clients. Now, there are a ton of different contract software companies out there now, so I definitely encourage you to shop around. I use PandaDoc, and when I first started, their subscription for the month was $9. Like, $9 is seriously cheap. But now, unfortunately, it's gone up to $35, which I'm a little bit annoyed about. However, I do still think they have the most competitive library of templates, which I really like. For other contract softwares like DocuSign, they are cheaper. I think DocuSign is $20 a month. However, it doesn't have the same library of templates. I believe when I looked online, you only get 5 templates in your account, but you do have unlimited contracts that you can send. So perhaps looking at a software like DocuSign or HelloSign, shopping around, see who's got the most competitive deal on, could be worthwhile. Now, the thing that you don't need as a new social media manager might be controversial, but I don't believe you need accounting software. Now, I love Xero. When I talk about things that I use in my business every single week, my accounting software Xero is one of them. However, when I was getting started, what I did was actually just use Excel spreadsheets and even like the journal pages in the back of my daily planner, which I used for my corporate job, but I actually used it to also track my accounting when invoices were due. At that point, I was working off deposits, so it was really helpful for me to just write down when I'd received deposits, when the next payment was due, and all of that kind of information. And the thing is, as a social media manager, you have quite a simple business model. And that is, you work from home, you have your laptop, you have a few software subscriptions, you might have a camera, a microphone, a few other gadgets as you grow. But in most part, your incoming and your outgoing expenses are very simple. You're going to have your clients paying you, and you're going to have a couple of expenses. And I think it's really easy to manage this, at least in your first 6 to 12 months of business. Let me just say, it gets to be simple. It can be this simple when you're a creative freelancer, when you're a social media manager, even, if you're listening to this and you're a graphic designer, a web designer, even a photographer. I think a lot of this, the software and the things that I'm saying here are still relevant. So you can kind of see from the apps and the different software that I'm running through in this video that there's a prioritization you have to make as a new business owner. And I really hope what I've shared here is kind of got you thinking on what's actually essential and what are just things people are trying to sell to me on the internet, or what are things that I'm just getting pounded with ads that make me think I need this in my business, but actually they're not essential. And this is also why I freaking love social media management as a career, as a job, because I think it's so accessible. Like, we can get started with $20 a month to invest in our business. Like, that's crazy. And I guess if you added up all the recommendations I'm making, you get up to around $60 a month. But compare that to a lot of other businesses. You need thousands and thousands of dollars of startup capital to start making money, not even making a profit. And that's the beautiful thing about social media management. You can be in the green, in the profit very easily. It's a very high profit business model. And I know I'm biased, but I love it. Now, last but not least, there is one very important app that's going to be integral to the growth and development of you, as well as your business, the personal growth and the business growth. And this app recommendation might surprise some of you, but it's Spotify. And please stay with me here. There are so many fancy pieces of software that I could recommend to you in this video. But when I look back on my business journey and what's been the most influential, what's helped shift the needle, what's helped me scale, it's things that helped with my development and my upskilling. And I honestly think with Spotify Premium, you've got access to not only like hundreds of brilliant podcasts, and while you're over there, you can check out the Dishing Up Digital podcast, which is run by this amazing chick called Ellen, and you might like it. But also what I have been really getting into recently are the audiobooks. Like, there are so many incredible books on there with so much knowledge from marketing, from digital marketing and design and that side of business, through to also the self-development and the personal help and things that are going to help with your mindset of running a business. And actually, one of the books that I listened to a couple of months ago now, but I can't stop recommending it to people, is The Perfectionist's Guide to Losing Control. And there's something about like a non-fiction self-development book that just, I love to listen to it rather than read. Like, I'll listen to it in the car. That book in particular, like if you're struggling with perfectionism, I cannot recommend it enough. If I was starting over from zero today, I know that my top priority for growing my business should be that education. It should be the upskilling. And as much as I would recommend like online courses and hiring a coach, I really wanted to give you this video as a like, hey, look, these are the really budget-friendly alternatives and the things you can do to be a little bit more savvy. I obviously have a coaching program for social media managers and I'm incredibly proud of it, and it is worth every dollar. But I also know that it's a big investment for a lot of new social media managers out there. I often get students who decide to go down the route of learning from all my free material, like my YouTube channel and my podcast, listening to other podcasts and finding that kind of information they need online for free. Once they've validated their business idea and they've got a couple of clients, they sign up for the Dishing Up Digital School. Others come in because they're just ready to make that investment straight away and they want to like get the express pass and miss out on making all the mistakes that I did when I got started, or that a lot of people do make when they are trying to run the business or start the business on their own. So there's definitely huge value in coaching. I have my own business coach that I meet with every month, and I've had several coaches in the past that have been truly transformational. So I'm not saying it's not worth the money, but I think if I were to go back to past Ellen, I would just be like, you can do it, girl. Like, you can be a bit savvy. You can use these free resources, but also just like get on Spotify Premium, like get those audiobooks, get those podcasts going, and there's just so much you can learn out there. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you've enjoyed the honest, real, raw truth, and hopefully you've found some new software that you can go check out. And of course, big shout out to our sponsor, Rella. Don't forget about using my discount code Ellen and saving 30% off your subscription. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.